While students head back to school, they'll uncover new lessons, exciting adventures, and lots of peer pressure. Let's start today with the conversation that parents can appreciate. For years, parents, public health advocates, and youth leaders forged awareness that would lead teens out of tobacco use and prevent them from becoming lifelong smokers. But today's e-cigarette crisis threatens to destroy that progress. With trendy vaping pens and flavors like bubblegum and cherry, e-cigs have become the Joe Camel for today's teens. Here to tell us what you can do to help is Liz Prey, Washington State Director for the National Association of School Nurses. Welcome, Liz. Liz, back to school is here, and it's a fun time for students. With that excitement, why is it important for parents to check in with their teens and talk to them about the vaping crisis?
Thank you for having me this morning. And, peer pressure is huge. And, flavored e-cigarettes are a little scary because they're not associated with the high percentage of nicotine that they actually have. So I'm holding with me two different types. The Elf Bar here in my right hand, this one is a honeydew pineapple orange flavor, okay? And then the Jewel over here in this hand, look how small that is. I can almost conceal that whole thing. Parents need to be on the lookout for the signs that there might be a problem.
So let's start with the latest data on the vaping crisis. Tell us what you know from recent studies.
So we've got a study that right now 2.5 million of our students use flavored e-cigarettes. And that's a little alarming because it's 2.5 million too many. And that study just looks at middle and high school age students.
And can you talk about the perception among many that e-cigs are somehow safer than cigarettes and how it compares to the reality of their nicotine content?
So people thought that e-cigarettes were the alternative to quitting smoking. And the way that things are being marketed now, they're targeting the younger age group. And, the chemicals that are in those e-cigarettes, they're not healthy for our kids. And so their bodies are developing right now, and those e-cigarettes are affecting brain development. They're affecting their lungs. We're seeing all kinds of side effects, and most of the side effects, we're not going to know what they are long term.
And we were looking at some footage where we saw the candy and how the e-cigs are placed relatively close and right next to it. So what can the FDA as well as city and state governments do, and how can we press them to take further action?
Honestly, the FDA needs to take those off the market. There needs to be a push to eliminate those. Parents, school officials, we need to start using our voices and speaking up and fighting back, to keep our kids safe. And the FDA needs to be accountable.
And for parents, sometimes it's not easy to approach the subject with their kids, but parents are on the front lines in this battle. How can moms and dads start the conversation, and when is too early?
Honestly, it's never too early. Having the conversation is probably the hardest part, and making sure that you approach it in a way that seems like you're not lecturing them. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to answer questions that they ask. And if you don't know the answer, it's okay to say that you don't know. Ask for help. Reach out to your school nurse, your school counselor. Most school districts have access to substance abuse counselors that can also help start that conversation.
All right, it's good that we're talking about this, especially as students are heading back to school. Liz, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to let our viewers know where they can go for more information. You can find out more at the Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids website. Head over to tobaccofreekids.org.